Are you tired of your paintings looking flat and uninteresting? Well, this easy painting trick changed my life, and I'm going to show you how to get your paintings to go from looking like this to looking like this. Here we go. So right as we're getting started here, you might notice that we're just using black and white paint as we're getting going. And that's going to be kind of the main theme of this video. This is called painting in grayscale. And I'm sure you already know what it means, but grayscale is just the values between black to white and gray in between. And by painting just in black and white, you can actually paint a whole scene using only values. And then once you have the values in, you can just go in and glaze over with the colors. And you'll get to see that later on once we get further into this video, but glazing is just taking a transparent color and then brushing it over the top of the values that we already have down. And you can do this with any medium, whether that's oils, acrylics, even watercolors. So for example, if you're painting with acrylics, you could just thin down your paint with some water and then go back over the top of your values with a transparent color, and then boom, you have your colors on your canvas already there. And this approach can be done in many different ways, and I've done it a lot of different ways, but the one that I've found, especially for a scene like this where it's just really bright highlights and really dark shadows, and especially for a scene where your color scheme is somewhat monochromatic, and what I mean by that is just using only one color to paint the whole scene. So for example, when you saw that finished piece in the intro, it's just purple pretty much, purple and a little bit of pink. But again, by painting in grayscale, we don't even have to worry about the colors yet. Whereas before, if you're going straight into colors when painting a scene like this, you might end up worrying about your colors too much and losing your overall composition in the process. It's really easy to get distracted by colors, especially at the start of a painting, and your whole composition ends up looking flat and uninteresting. Here's one of my paintings, for example, that I did a while back that, man, the details are there. It looks really good. Like, it's got all those little details in the mountains. It's got an interesting composition. The foreground has, sharp details up front, and then it fades off into the distance, and we've got this little city down here. But overall, the whole composition as a whole, it just doesn't look interesting. The whole scene is kind of flat. And it's even more apparent when you put one of your paintings into grayscale. You can do that by going into Photoshop and then adding a grayscale filter over it, and then looking at what your painting looks like without its colors. Because that one, for example, the colors looked cool. It's got details, it's all there, but overall, the values are not where they should be. Here's another example. Look at this video of my face with no lighting on it. There's no values happening in this video, and so it's not interesting. But look what happens when there's light on my face. Now this overall image is a lot more interesting because you can see what's happening. So again, just as an example, if I were composing a painting and I was using this screenshot as my reference for my painting, we have plenty of details there, we have colors, all of the shapes are in the right places, but when you put it in black and white, it's not an interesting composition. Now let's compare that to this image of the one with the correct values. The lighting is there, just in grayscale, this still looks like a good picture. And then we add the colors and boom, there we have a decent picture. You can see everything that's happening and it actually looks good. So again, in this painting, for example, I have this big bright spot of white in the middle, and that's gonna make everything else look really bright. And then I have these dark areas in the paintings that's gonna make everything look really dark. I'm gonna let Bob say it because he did it really well.
In order to have light, you gotta have dark. You gotta have opposites, dark and light and dark, continually in painting. If you have light on light, you have nothing. If you have dark on dark, you basically have nothing. There we are. It's like in life. You gotta have a little sadness once in a while so you know when the good times come. I'm waiting on the good times now.
And now as I compose myself and try not to think about Bob going through really hard times, I'll try and keep talking about this painting. As I was composing this piece, I knew that I wanted to have this really bright spot in the middle and then some clouds off on the edges with the tiny little starship flying through, and we'll see that here in a minute too. But I just got on Photoshop and started splashing some bright values around in the middle and then some dark values just wherever. So it was just kind of a fun way to create a scene in a really abstract way while making something very intentional. And so it starts out really abstract just by placing down all this gray value and then sort of pinpointing areas to make really dark and then other areas to make really light. And that's kind of the whole way of how I made this whole space scene. And I just think it's really cool to be able to just place down color and then have it end up as being something. I don't know, I just had a lot of fun with it, and I just wanted to show you guys kind of how this went. And I'll just go ahead and skip ahead here a little bit to the part where I made the starship. So I actually took a quarter and just put some paint around the edge of the quarter and then stuck it on the front of the canvas, and that's how I made that perfect circle. And there's plenty of ways you can make a circle. You could just freehand it, or you can try and make something that is a little more mathematic. This part was also really fun. I just took some masking tape, stuck it on the top of the beam and then on the bottom, and then put some white paint in between. And it's just a really fun, easy way to make those like energy lines going out from behind it. I thought that was super cool. And then just using a small round brush, you can kind of go in there with white paint and just place in all those little dots, and those are going to end up looking like stars. And those were just kind of like the base stars. I actually do the little flicking method where you take a fan brush with the wet paint and then flick it on there, and it looks super cool. And then I don't know if you remember what I was talking about before with glazing. This is what I'm talking about. So now that I have all those values down, I have all the darks, I have all the lights, I'm able to just take color and then paint over that whole black and white painting with the color, and it's already there, and it's super cool. And I do end up going over it with a bit more of that white and pink, just to try and make that white and pink a bit more saturated and vibrant. But from here, it's just a free kind of coloring time, and it's super cool. And I just love this method. It seriously has changed how I paint with a lot of pieces, because whereas before I'd be stuck to like just focusing on the colors and just trying to make sure the colors are right and the details are right all at once, whereas now I can just focus on grayscale, and as long as I have that grayscale down right, the whole rest of the composition is gonna look great, because I can get the outline, I can get the proportions, whatever I'm painting. Even if it's like a portrait or something, you can just paint in grayscale, make sure that the eyes are exactly in the right places, make sure the arm is the right length. Or if it's a mountain, you can make sure the mountain is taller, you can make sure the trees are as wide as you want them to be. It's just a really fun way to paint, and I just really wanted to show that to you guys and show you guys how easy this method is and how fun it can be. So with this piece, I just spent a lot more time kind of refining and focusing in on where those highlights and shadows and darks and lights were meeting. And then here's where you can see me using that flicking method with the fan brush. I literally just take the fan brush, I dip it in some thinned down oil paint, and I flick it on the edge of, I think I was using a lid or something. And it's just such an easy fun way to make stars. And then for those energy trails, I just took like a moppy flat brush with some white paint on it and just dragged like straight down. I actually turned the canvas upwards at this point because it's just a lot easier for me to drag from top to bottom than from side to side. My hand is just a lot more steady, so just kind of use whatever methods are at your disposal to paint your piece, and don't worry if it's weird or whatever, just paint however you paint best. So yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this piece. I just wanted to share that fun little method with you, that fun little bit of knowledge. I hope some of you guys can get something out of this and learn something from it. I want to see if you guys do this. Please share your paintings with me. Feel free to send me a message on Instagram or Facebook or whatever. Tag me. I just want to see your guys' artwork, and especially if you're doing the kind of like grayscale method to paint on top. It's a super fun thing to do, and I would love to see what you guys are doing with it. So big thank you to my Patreon supporters, and I will catch you all in the next video. Appreciate you guys.